Welcome to Sunrise Disco. This is a faith studies podcast presented by St. Anthony of Padua. So to our fellow St. Anthony of Paduans and the parishioners, welcome. And I hope that you find this time to be rewarding and enlightening and maybe a little bit fun too. This is an opportunity for us to really dive into faith studies questions that you should probably be familiar with by now, um, and engage with them in a new and different way. We're going to have a good, hearty discussion, and we might even be able to picture us having a beer as we have these discussions. But the main thing to really emphasize is that this podcast is going to be a discussion-based podcast. It's three guys having a good conversation and a good bit of time with each other. This isn't meant to be educational, so if we say something wrong, we're sorry. We're always going to be honest with our understanding of the faith. We're not going to compromise that, and we're always going to be charitable. But sometimes we can be wrong as well. So if we say something and Father Mike says something, or Father Justin says something, and they contradict each other, take your odds that we're the ones that are wrong. That being said, we do hope that this is a podcast that can give you something, and it's not a complete waste of your time. We do want you to listen and have fun and participate in your own way, in the way that you can, even though it's a bit of a one-way medium here. We're having our conversation and shouting it into the void, but we're hoping that you listening on the other side can respond to that and give something back, as it were. Today, I am your host. My name is Linus, and you probably would have seen my face before around in the parish, even though we're a podcast and you can't see my face, but that's okay. I am heavily involved with the altar server ministry, and I do a lot of work with the parish office as well. I'm one of the resident solutions development people for this current time of COVID, and I work a lot with trying to ensure that when Mass is in person, that it is following our guidelines as closely as possible to give you a safe experience to go back to church. I'm joined by two of my fellow podcast hosts, Chris and Nathan, and I was going to give a funny quote to introduce them, but I'm actually going to let them make up their own funny quote themselves. Chris?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you can only hear my voice, but my name is Chris. You've probably heard my voice on Masses. I do all the music for all the Masses. I'm the music director at St. Anthony's, so I'm in charge of kind of all things related to music. Like our Masses and praise and worship every Wednesday. I've led quite a few faith studies. I've not done Alpha yet, but I've led quite a few faith studies. So I have dipped my toe in faith studies for quite a bit. But other than that, I'm also a student. I don't do much. I just wake up and I eat, and then I do work. So.
I mean, you said you're a student, right? I would expect you would do some studying at some point.
I mean, it's all just one mesh of weird brain work.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Nathan?
Yeah, I'm Nathan. I'm also parishioner at St. Anthony's, very proud one, and I've done some things around the parish. Taught multiple faith studies. Was part of the original faith studies core team. So a lot of the processes put in place, you can hate me for if you don't currently like our process, but we haven't heard a lot of negative feedback on that, so I think it's been good. And I've also assisted in writing some testimonies, helping some people. But as having a young family and a very, very active daughter named Olivia, I've scaled back a little bit on some of my volunteering, but my family's still very much in tune with the parish and miss Mass very, very much, and can't wait to not be watching it on YouTube.
That's not fair. I also miss Mass, and I miss having everyone
Chris,
there.
you get to sing at the Mass.
I miss having everyone at Mass. That's a low blow. I didn't even get to talk about how much I miss having people at Mass.
That Chris, that is like the Catholic equivalent of first world problems during the time of pandemic.
There's
Like,
no people in Masses.
oh no, nobody sings with me at Mass anymore. Oh, the horror.
Do you know what's the funniest thing, actually? So at Mass, I have someone who mutes and unmutes my mic, but before I sing, I always have to cough. So people actually have told me that people are complaining on the chat. They're like, I can hear someone cough. And I was like, if you can hear someone cough during Mass, it's like you're really at the Mass. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to keep it real.
All right, dear viewers, you're probably wondering what's the point of this podcast, and so it's not to riff on the joys of our very unique parish life. It is to, in fact, to have some good and fruitful spiritual discussion. I think a lot of you have probably had experience with our faith studies program. And you're probably aware that, you know, a lot of the times those faith studies conversations get kind of cut short for time, or that they you know, you don't get to jump on the tangent that you really wanted to jump on. So that's kind of the point of this podcast. So whether you are having had completed all your faith studies, you are in the middle of taking your faith studies, you missed the registration for faith studies, and you're just wanting some little faith studies spice to tide you over until then, this is kind of this is going to be a place where we're going to kind of engage with the framework of it, but we're also going to jump on a lot of tangents, as you've probably noticed already. So guys, we're going to go right into, I guess, the very first one. So when was the last time you guys took or led Discovery? How long has it been?
You first.
Yeah, I think I think early 2019.
Okay.
It all 2020 just is blur, so it could have been later in 2019, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's before the world changed.
Well before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. There was a. Yeah, it wasn't even. We weren't. We didn't have people protesting rail crossings or anything like that. It was pretty far away. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, Chris?
Do you know what? Can I say pre-COVID? Because everything after that is kind of this own blob of time and stuff. I think last time I led faith studies was maybe 2018 or 2019. I don't remember. I would look at my leader's guides, but I always just took them and gave it back. So I couldn't really tell you, but I think it was 2018, maybe 2018, yeah.
Yeah. I want to say my last time was 2019 in the summer, just because I remember. Well, it was back in the days when Angel was still running the faith studies, and it was one of the Tuesday ones where we had Mass, because we went over and then we went over for Mass too. So yeah.
Those were the good old days, man.
Yeah.
Those are the good old days.
Just a point of just not necessarily correction, but the question was Discovery. I am actually currently leading commission right now. I have made a comeback.
He did a comeback, you guys.
You mean you got recommissioned?
Okay.
I got recommissioned to commission somebody else. Yeah, that's how it all works at St. Anthony's.
So how is that going, actually, leading faith studies online?
It's all right. Thankfully, there's only one person that's taking commission in my group, so it's not as hard. But I prefer in person much more.
Are you saying that running commission online is a mission?
Oh
Okay,
my
I'll
gosh!
stop.
Wait, is this a one-on-one faith study?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. I love one-on-one faith studies. Because that's where all the juice comes from, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're in a group of people and you're leading faith studies, like, you have to say stuff, but, like, you can't dig into it, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it's a one-on-one, you just tangent all over the place, and it's so good.
I mean, like, my experience taking Discovery, so not leading it, but, like, my first time taking Discovery was a group of about, like, 20 people. And so yeah, like the thing was like it was a group of people that already knew each other. They would pray the rosary every Wednesday, and they've been praying the rosary together for like 20 years or so. It was a Waterloo professor's house. He's one of those Catholic guys who's got 9 kids, and so I think it was in either the 80s or the 90s. There were four guys that were already accepted to go into seminary at the University of Waterloo. And they were just trying to finish up their undergrads before they would switch over, and they were just asking for a place to pray the rosary, and so they started doing the rosary at his house every week, and that group has been running since then for like 10-20 years. And so what would happen was that there was usually somebody who would give a talk or a Bible study before we jump into the rosary. And so at one point, the person who was giving most of the talks, she was like, "Hey, there's this fancy new program from CCO that's getting really popular. You guys want to try it out?" And so we just did discovery there, all 20 of us. So we had like 3 other seminarians and 2 priests and like 2 or 3 Catholic bloggers.
I can't imagine.
And then a couple other like students who would really like step up to take some big roles within the church. One of them was working with NCLN for the longest time. And so we're all just sitting together. We're all answering these discovery questions, and it was a really fun time. And the person leading us, she did her MDiv from Steubenville, so it was just like a very like everybody knew their stuff already, but it was just fun to kind of dive back into the faith and have those conversations again.
I can't imagine having a face study with 20 people. Like, it'll probably be like this podcast. Like, each question is going to be like an entire episode, like an hour or two long.
Yeah. Or like a lot of times it's like, okay, like, you know this already. Let's just have some fun with this question, kind of a thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh man, that's cool.
Yeah. So for our dear viewers who are only but here in audio form, a lot of these questions you probably do know the answers for, and a lot of these questions might seem a little juvenile, but that's okay. You stick with it, and it's always good to revisit the basics and see how you process it. And I think one of the beauties of this program is that it's set up in such a way that it's really easy to dive back into, even though you think that you know everything already. So guys, what happens in our hearts when we are loved? And how are we affected? Chris, I'm going to pick on you.
Well, love. What is love? No.
Baby, don't hurt me.
Baby, don't hurt me.
No more.
I think this question's like such a good opening question because like growing up as a cradle Catholic and even like just like beginning to find the faith, it's more like God seems so impersonal. You know what I'm saying? Like it that's one of the biggest things is to feel the personal God, right? It's like he feels like such a distant being where it's so like dissociated from yourself because he's God and you're you. Sorry, I'm just gonna answer the question.
Yeah, Chris, I wanted to know what happens in your heart, not what happens in the general
it's
heart.
It's this warm fuzzy feel. I don't know. It's like I think love is such a it's more than a feeling. It's definitely it's trust. It's obviously like a warm feeling that you get, but it's like a culmination of like you trusting the person who's loving you. It's almost like it's like you're receiving a gift from them, right? When someone shows you love, it's not like someone can like it's like when you feel love, it's like when someone shows you love through like actions and words or words of affirmation, and we can get into the whole love languages thing, but I would say like it's a great feeling that comes from receiving a gift, which also implies that like love is like almost like a choice that you make to show to another person. And there's so many facets to that. It's like a warm feeling. It's like you feel like you can trust the other person, and I can go on forever about it. But yeah, let's just go with warm fuzzy feeling.
All right, Nathan, as our resident cynic, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would call a young fogey. So somebody who is looking forward to being to being a cranky old man tomorrow. I just wish I could get away with some of the things that they do. Anyway, so what happens in my heart when I'm loved? I would say calm. I'm a very anxious person, so love calms me, reassures me that I'm valued, and I would say, how am I affected? I would say that I'm generally more happy, more bright, less cynical. Might just be that not a lot of people love me right now, so that could be part of the reason why my cynicism is so high. But
Hey,
but yes,
hey, I love you, Nathan.
well there you go. See, I'm already thinking the world's a better place.
I was just about to say, Nathan, aren't you the only one of the three of us that's done the whole vocation and
See, I was just gonna
full
say, I was like,
sacramental love and all that stuff too?
I was just gonna say, I was like, he's not only a resident cynic, he's the resident married guy in our podcast.
Could be why I'm cynical. No,
Whoa, whoa,
no,
whoa, 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 whoa!
no. I mean, I no the love in our family is fantastic. I would be a very miserable person if I wasn't married to my beautiful wife Megan, and had this rambunctious daughter Olivia. Just it's yeah, no, it makes you feel alive. Especially in marriage. I'm not necessarily answering the question anymore here, but uh, one of the things I think gets a bad rap in today's culture is marriage. Either it's like too superficial and it's going to save you, or it's that thing, it's just like, oh, you're ball and chain. It's neither of those things. It's just an awesome adventure. And like, I would have to say, life has been infinitely better since I got married 5 years ago.
Man, that's beautiful. What is Linus going to say after that, dude?
This is going to be a total cop out, but the answer is I don't know.
That is a total cop out.
Because so here's the thing, right? Because like for me, like I don't really notice it in the moment of being loved. It's just like, I'm going about doing my thing. I'm enjoying my time, enjoying the people that I'm with. It's only afterwards that I kind of notice, oh hey, like that was that moment that everybody always talks about and everyone sings about and all that other stuff, right? Like yeah, like I don't like it's really like I really resonate with that. There's an element in one of the gospels on the disciples on the road to Emmaus where they kind of like just pause and they're like, yeah, weren't our hearts burning like when we were chatting with Jesus? Wasn't that a thing? And so yeah, like I guess when I'm in the moment, like I'm really soaking it up, right? Like if I'm trying to pause it and take notes in that, it kind of defeats the purpose of love, right? Because now you're taking something that's outward focused and you've turned entirely inward focused because you're trying to be so analytical about it. So I mean, like, and then once you're out of it, like like it's kind of like a dream. Like there's some aspects of a dream, like they're gonna be, some aspects are gonna slip away and some of them are gonna resonate with you, right? And so like yeah, you feel happier and you really feel like everything's kind of going your way. But having been in a long distance relationship for just coming up to 3 years in a month, like you don't always feel that way, right? And one of the things that my lovely girlfriend always says is that emotions have nothing to do with love sometimes, right? Because a lot of the times, like especially in this current time where we haven't physically seen each other in 6 months, you don't get that the warm and fuzzies and unicorns and rainbows and all that other awesome stuff, right? You soldier through it because there is that appreciation and the choice to put yourself back in there for so in the hopes of being able to discern whether or not that sacramental grace and all the good things that Nathan has been given is something that's in store for us.
Yeah, I can feel that. I think there's such a romanticization about a marriage. It's like kind of like if love starts off as a feeling, like marriage is like a higher level of that same feeling, where like in reality, like that's like really not true, and it might not even be a feeling. It's more like a constant day-to-day thing where you're just realizing it, like you said, at the end of the day, right? Where it's like, wow, I was really loved today.
Hmm.
Yeah, and picking up on Linus's point, I really like how you answered that there. You don't know at the time because, yeah, I mean, he in my relationship with Christ, that's how I know his love. I don't know his love in the moment, whether things are good or things are bad. And it's only when in those times of reflection, usually brought on by an anxiousness or a kind of like, I'm really bored right now, or I'm kind of depressed, that I look back on certain realities of my life and be like, wow, my Lord really loves me. Like, it's, I am blessed in so many different ways, or oh yeah, he loves me. He really taught me a lesson there. I really got to humble myself, because there's that love too. There is, one of the things I don't appreciate enough, and I don't say to my wife enough, is I appreciate that she gives me a hard time, because, we're supposed to make each other saints, at least in a marriage context. That is your job. Your job is to pursue holiness, and the best part is you need to pursue it, and your wife or spouse, whatever sex you are, and no, we don't believe in switching those. You're on a goal to sainthood, and I think it's a very loving thing to be challenged, to be corrected, and I mean, if anything, my problem with things is I'm stubborn and oftentimes want to win the argument, and therefore the correction might take longer, but it is much better when you can learn off of each other and see that the Lord's working through your spouse.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like almost like keeping yourself accountable, right? It's like they care about you because they're putting in all that effort to fight you over what they think is right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because if they didn't care, they wouldn't. If they didn't love you, they wouldn't care, right? They'd be like, yes, yes. You know what I'm saying? So I totally see that.
Yeah, and like especially like I can't speak from a personal standpoint. I've been my girlfriend and I have been very graced that we never really had to struggle with issues of chastity, but like hearing from some of our friends about how they're in relationships and they're struggling with chastity, and that feeling of guilt of like looking at your significant other in the confession line and realizing, oh, that was me that put them there. That's even from a secondhand perspective, that's a really resonant image for me to sit on mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's like one of the biggest problems playing our generation, like our kind of age group. I'm gonna put us all in the same age group, by the way, you guys. But yeah, like chastity is such a huge thing, and I mean, it's like education, it's vocation, it's what's exposed to us as even since we were children, right? Like it's this idea that it's okay to not be chaste, right? And it's okay to do those kind of things outside of marriage, right? And that just stems from like not being educated in the sacraments, not being educated in like what God wants for us as people.
I mean, I think as well on that point, like it's I mean, yeah, education has a role to it, but I think on a deeper part too is and maybe it's a problem with this kind of question too, and it's reflective of the society that we're in, where the definition of love is assumed to have an element of self in it, where we know through Christ that that total outpouring of self is really going to lead you to two pieces of wood on a hill in the middle of the Middle East.
Yeah, that's some powerful stuff, Linus. I like it. I like how just that phrase, like love has this essence of self, where like actually like the true essence of love is Jesus, right? And Jesus was all about selflessness and giving himself up for us freely, right? And that's kind of how we've skewed it as a society. It's like love is, there's something in it for yourself, whereas true love is fully giving yourself for the other person, right?
Yeah, no, amen. I mean, it's where we falter. Love is the cross, and yeah, that's something that we do not romanticize in our current state, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if this is literally the hill that I want to be dying on.
That's true.
So I guess question for you guys then is going to be, how would you have answered this question differently 5 years ago?
Hmm.
I'm gonna pick on Nathan first.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Hmm, that is a very good question. More superficially,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, Probably more cynically too. I think I would have thought,
Superficial and cynical.
yeah, yeah. Well, superficial, so like I could just get through it and move on to a better question. Um, and then cynical in my mind in that this is a silly question. Why are
Mm-hmm.
we talking about more substantive matters?
Yeah, that's
I don't know,
fair.
but that's because in my own growth in faith is words. I became what I converted to Catholicism, and one of the things that drew me was the traditional aspects of our faith and learning that the cross is love and really falling for the truth, but not really connecting that these questions maybe in the way that they're worded is worded for the modern culture in like, oh, love, we all love each other, and it's just so lame. But in reality it's like, no, those words still mean the same thing. It's all a matter of perspective. So my perspective was maybe more flawed back then, and still is in some degree. And I need to always look at the fact that love is the cross, and I must, and I can't, and even if the question is asked in such a way that I'm like, oh, I should just get through this because it's not really a meaty question that really helps us get into the study here.
Mm.
It still can be meaningful on the perspective, and still good to give and contribute.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, Nathan.
I totally agree. I think it would definitely be more superficial. I don't know about cynical. I'm like I'm getting there, but not to the level of Nathan. But yeah, for sure, superficial. I think 5 years ago, what I was 19, 20. I was just a whippersnapper. I mean, at that point
I
in
think Chris, you're still the whippersnapper of the group.
the only thing that's snapping is my back. Let me tell you, dude. Anyway, um, yeah, it's like at that age, 19, 20, like especially if you're a person who's involved in the church and you're at that age, like all the words to say to get people to be like, oh yeah, he's a good Catholic. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh yeah, love is like that feeling where it's like innate and God loves you and everyone loves you and whatever. But it's it's definitely kind of more concrete, especially through kind of my like reconversion, quote unquote. It's like when I was 19 and 20, I was still like pretty involved in the church and stuff, but it was nowhere near as intentional as it is now. Like it was more like a thing that I did because my parents are super involved. So I guess everything that I would say would kind of just be like a surface level answer, if that makes any sense. It's more like, oh, what does it feel like when you're loved? Oh, it's like when your girlfriend pays for your food, or or
Whoa, 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 Chris! Why are you letting her pay for your food?
okay. It's just an example. Chill, bro. It's just an example. But it's also like it's the love from your parents where they take care of you, right? But now like as I get older and I realize love is such an intense thing that happens even when you're not around anyone, they are still actively loving you, right? And and that's like especially important with God. Like even though you're not aware of it, he's still actively and fully loving you as much as if you were talking to him or if you were engaged with him. So I totally agree. How about you, Linus? 5 years ago.
I think I'd be similar to you, Chris. Like I think 5 years ago, I would definitely have been more, more of I would have had the book memorized better to the point where I could give the right answer without really giving anything away in that sense. And I mean, 5 years ago, I was in the middle of my undergrad career at that point, and I was let's see, 5 years, 2016. I would have just I would have just taken over the little student center that we were running at the University of Waterloo. So unlike other universities in Canada, where they have solid Catholic groups that are out there, or even multiple solid Catholic groups like UBC. The University of Waterloo had zero for the longest
Wow.
time, and part of that was a mix of having a very poor and a very weak Catholic college on campus, and a student council that refused to approve any student club, any religious club that did not have the approval of the campus chaplain of that respective religion. So for the longest time at the University of Waterloo, we just didn't have anything, because every time we tried to start something, we'd go to the chaplain of this Catholic college, and they would say, you don't need to have this club because we do everything already. And then we'd be like, what are you talking about? You just canceled Tuesday Bible study for yoga class. Or no, sorry, so yoga class was Thursday and Tuesday, Bibles were Tuesday, but they canceled Tuesday Bible study for a chill night, which you then canceled again so that everybody that was there could go watch Deadpool.
You're talking about, Linus. Did you not know the theological underpinnings of Deadpool?
I'm not sure they could have answered that question, let alone
just
me
you
trying
wait.
as charitably as possible.
Father always loves putting
Like,
the movies.
I mean, when he took off his mask, I mean, there's definitely a leprosy reference.
Yo.
The fires of hell on his skin. So, kind of going back to my story here. So yeah, we didn't have anything for the longest time, and so what a lot of us ended up doing is that we would make, and I'm doing this in air quotes, ethnic Catholic groups. So it's not okay to have a Catholic club on campus, but you can have a Chinese Catholic club because
Genius.
you're a special group now. You're not being served by the very white Catholic college being run by a very white retired nun. And so that's what we had, a couple of those going on. And, we had the CFC youth were running a cell at the university. And so was a group called Jesus Youth. And so we had these little groups that were kind of meeting using the campus, but we were also like very insular. And we like, it was very hard for people to meet each other. And one of the things that ended up happening was that the bishop of Hamilton ended up, he was aware that this was a problem on the university campuses, and because this Catholic college was run by a religious order, he couldn't remove the parties that were responsible for creating such a lethargic Catholic culture. But what he ended up doing was that there was a church that was right outside of campus, and so he ended up moving the priests out of that rectory and then converting that rectory into a student center. And so that would kind of serve as the heart of the Catholic movement within the campus. And the thing about the town of Waterloo is that, you have the University of Waterloo, but within a 10-minute walk, you also have Wilfrid Laurier University as well. And so this church was situated right between both campuses. And so you could really reach into both campuses and start to pull all the Catholics out and give them a community and a place to kind of call their own. And so we kind of snuck around the university rules that way by way of just disassociating completely with the university and having a bishop that supported us. And so when this group first started, it was kind of like the UN almost. It's like you got all these disparate Catholic groups that had never really met each other, and you got the leaders all stuck in a room, and then the priest says, okay, this is your center now, all of you are going to work together to build this up. And so by the 2016, I would have kind of ascended to become the head of this group of students. And so in answering it, then I think I was very prideful of my ability to know a lot of answers back then. And so I probably would have just given like a word for word description from Love and Responsibility or something like that, without really appreciating like the beauty behind the words, or like, a word for word from the catechism about total gift of self, without really having known how to give of myself at all.
Yeah. It's actually so interesting because like in the leader's guide, it actually gives you like what a good answer would be, right? And I know a lot of people that I know, and this is not a problem. Like I don't think this is a problem. A lot of people like would really take the answer that they had in the book and kind of like write down their own answer in the context of the answer in the book, and then prepare that to say it during faith studies. I know when I was getting led in faith studies when I was at UBC, or I'm still at UBC, but when I was taking faith studies at UBC, a lot of the leaders, they would like almost give what the book wanted you to say as an answer, and then kind of ramble off or kind of like hash out their own meaning of love, or like I guess in this case love, like through the answer of the book. And I honestly like never really liked that, because I feel like it takes away from the personalness of the answer, right? I don't know about you guys, but I never prepared anything for faith studies.
I'll do you one better, Chris. I would take a faith study in which I would have not had seen the leader's guide at all, and I would ad hoc be able to give what the answer in the cheater notes would be, just because I knew the material that well.
And honestly, to be very fair, I think the best and the most rich conversations come from like the answers that come spontaneously. You know, because like you don't have time to make something up if you're gonna be put on the spot like that. So you have to answer honestly, and I think when people are put on the spot to have to answer in that way, it's so fruitful. I think it's so fruitful. I don't know about you, Nathan. I don't know how much you prepare for faith studies, but I just like almost never prepare to anything. Maybe like doing a little bit of reading.
Hi, I'm Maria, the executive producer. What Chris says here about not preparing for faith studies doesn't reflect on the hard work that our faith study leaders put in to bring you the faith studies that you enjoy.
I'm more of a hybrid model. Kind of prepare. Are we talking about preparing as a participant or preparing as a leader here?
Let's say participant.
Yeah.
Oh, as a participant, I came in blind.
Of course. But what about as a leader, though?
As a leader, I think when I started, I was more geared to having every segment of that lesson planned out, and over time, let the Spirit breathe a little bit and open it up. I know as I did 2 or 3 as a leader, I ended up noticing that some people who I didn't think were very theologically grounded would have some very compelling answers, just raw. I mean, the language wasn't of the catechism by any stretch, but it really hit at the heart of what we were talking about. I'm like, that's better than anything written down in this book right now.
Yeah. I think the beauty of a question, especially like this first one here, is that the objective answer is objectively wrong. If that makes any sense, because especially like this is like, I know that this from a societal standpoint we love being objective, and that that there's an objective correctness to being seen as objective, but there's a real beauty in subjective experience, and not in the sense that like, oh yeah, your truth is the same as my truth, but in the vulnerability in saying, oh, really don't see the whole truth, but this is what I do see, and this is what reveals what elements of the truth are revealed to me are.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that's something that's lost on us, and I think that's something in COVID that we're witnessing now is people are like, there's a science to policy, when policy is simply what are people supposed to live with. Like that's a pretty subjective experience that is asking like, what is love? It's like, well, there's a ton of different definitions to it. Now, that doesn't mean objectivity doesn't have a place. I mean, gravity exists. There are certain things you can't say, oh, love is me beating up my girlfriend. No, that's not love.
Legally speaking, that can't be love.
You're a demented person. I'm sorry. That's just that is an objective statement too. So there are rules there, but I think there's 2 things going on. One, we have too much subjectiveness going on with the whole my truth and all of that sort of thing, and sort of not enough people grounded in the objectiveness. And then too many people grounded so much in the facts and the numbers without realizing that the situation can't be solved with facts and numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the best way that I ever had it explained to me was that, like, in when you're objective, that means that you, the person analyzing the problem, are completely separate from the problem. That's like when you, I don't know, you picture your favorite math problem. SkyTrain A leaves Brighouse Station going north at 30 kilometers an hour, and SkyTrain B leaves Waterfront Station heading south at 50 kilometers an hour. What station are they going to meet at? Right. That a question like that, as the person asking it, and as I guess you two as listeners, or our dear viewers who are only here in audio, they're completely devoid of that kind of a question, right? That kind of a question can be answered in many different angles, many different scientific angles, but the total number of zero personal angles. Whereas a question like, is reality real? Do I exist? That's the kind of question that you can't divorce yourself from, because if you divorce yourself from reality, then what's the point of reality, right?
Yeah.
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 You got it.
Okay. So guys, any new insights about love in the past hour?
No, I think we all have very similar ideas of love, because I mean, like us three, we are quite involved in the faith, and like we have the grace of kind of like knowing what love is from our involvement in church. So I mean, there's nothing like really revolutionizing about what we've been talking about. Hey, well, I guess for us.
I would say one insight was, Linus, your story about the Hamilton bishop and his very, very genius decision to convert that church that was near the properties of these two universities that clearly were not representing the Catholic faith in any meaningful way. And that is love. That is just, and the fact is, because he has a heart, and his heart's breaking by seeing these groups that are supposed to be representing the faith and clearly not doing it. And out of that love, he's like, ding, there's an idea. And he moves that, and he says, okay, this is how we're going to do it. And I mean, love takes a lot of different forms, and it's not always like this big romantic gesture. Sometimes it's a little a decision here, it's a little decision there, but constantly. But I know that this shepherd loves Jesus and wants Jesus to thrive in his diocese, and you can see that decision manifests itself in his action, because as soon as something came to him that he could do, it whips into action, and that's because the heart was already in love.
Man, Nathan, you're so wise, dude. I love, it's like everything you're saying is like juice. You know what I'm saying?
I've had a lot of time at home to think.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
What about you, Linus?
I agree with both of you in the sense that, I don't think we really covered a lot of new ground in the sense of like expanding our definitions of love. And I think part of the beauty of that, and through grace, is that we've been able to really practice it, right? And so when we practice it well, we know it well, and so it lets us it guides our actions in the future as well as reflects our past. And so the beauty of that is that it lets us recognize acts of love in other people because of that too, right? That's when people make those acts that resonate with us. Then that's the beauty of it, is that we can, because we've practiced in it and we've put ourselves out there enough times, that with a little help of grace and the Holy Spirit, we grow in it, and we can recognize it in other people as well. Right. And Nathan kind of phrased it well, right? Sometimes it's a lot of little small decisions, right? My girlfriend has this beautiful way of phrasing it, where is that like when you start dating, it's a lot of like Friday nights. It's a lot of big fun date nights where you go out, you have fun, you have beautiful experiences, but then you come home and you're tired. But then at the end of the day, the marriage, that the vocation that you're discerning isn't so much about those Friday nights anymore. It's about those really sleepy, tired Sunday afternoons when the two of you just sit on rocking chairs and enjoy each other's presence. And I don't know if I'm totally barking out of my league here, but that's a definition that kind of resonates with me.
Yeah, that is right. It's a home run grand slam. That's exactly the type of love you should be feeling once you're married, because that's really it.
You guys are so beautiful. I love these conversations, and I think, like, especially for right now, it's like, this is like, obviously, like, like one question per episode, but I think, like, this is like the core of our entire faith. Like, at the core of our entire faith is love, and like feeling the love that God provides for us through His Son and everything. So this is like a great way to start. And honestly, this could take 2 episodes.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind.
Well,
thank you everyone for joining us. We hope that you found this particular podcast episode to be enlightening and to in a source of new insights. We are a podcast, so we are available on all the sites that you would normally find podcasts, such as Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. We're also on YouTube. And you're more than welcome to comment on our YouTube video or on the Facebook group, where I'm sure this has been posted. We want you to engage with us, and if you send us good questions or good comments, we will probably respond to them in a future episode. You can also email us at sunrisedisco.sapv@gmail.com. And of course, as always, if you enjoyed this kind of a conversation and you want to participate in this kind of a conversation, if sitting on the sidelines of such a vibrant and engaging conversation is something that you feel a little bit jealous of, then you can have these kinds of conversations as well if you take faith studies at St. Anthony of Padua. And of course, if you take Alpha too, that you can have those as well. But we're faith studies first over here. So thank you everyone for your time. We hope to see you again sometime, and we hope that you will join us for future episodes. I've been Linus, and been joined by Chris and Nathan. And have a good rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
God bless you all.